Hey folks, I'm Red Monster SC, and this is the Comprehensive Guide to Surveying, Episode 2 of my updated mining tutorial series for Star Citizen Alpha 4.1 and beyond. In this video, we're diving into the world of surveying, how to choose where to mine, how to scan and read signal types, and how to evaluate what you find so you're not wasting time chasing garbage. Surveying is the key that separates frustration from fortune. Master it, and the payout's all yours.
In the verse, it's a rough on his way, working hard for credits every hour, every day. I roll down the Stanton, we'll dig until we strike. Mining in the verse, it's our way of life.
Surveying is the process of locating and evaluating mineable deposits throughout the verse. It's more than just flying around hoping for the best. Good surveying combines research, skill, and a little bit of luck to consistently find deposits that are both valuable and actually mineable with your current gear. Whether you're scouting for yourself or supporting a larger group, surveying is one of the most important roles in any successful mining operation. In this episode, we're going to break down each part of the surveying process. How to decide where to start your search, how to master your ship's scanning mode and use your tools efficiently, how to interpret signal types you'll come across in the field, how to evaluate a deposit and decide if it's worth mining, how to contribute your own survey data to the Regolith Survey Core, and how to improve your efficiency with real-world best practices. We'll also touch on some upcoming changes that could reshape how we survey in future patches. Before we dive in, if this kind of deep dive mining content is your thing, make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the rest of the series. And let me know in the comments, what are some of the tricks you've picked up while surveying? I'd love to hear what's been working for you. Before you start scanning, you need to decide where to begin your search. The type of deposit you're after, whether it's hand minables, vehicle gemstones, or ore clusters, will shape where and how you survey. If you're looking for hand mineable gemstones, caves are your best bet. You'll find them in high concentrations and they don't require any scouting. Hadanite, aphrite, and dolivine are the common types, while rarer gems like janelite, keranite, jacklium, and seldenium can be found in special cave systems or unlocked during the events like the Hathor orbital laser activation. Each hand mineable node yields 5 ready-to-sell gems. If you're dead set on doing cave mining, I'd recommend using verseguide.com to search for cave locations, which include the type of cave, the location, and easy-to-follow directions to get you there. While they can appear on the surface, they only show up on radar within a few hundred meters, making them almost impossible to track. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. Stick to caves and you'll do just fine. For vehicle gemstone deposits, you'll be surface side, but it gets trickier. These nodes show up alongside ore signals, so you'll need patience and a sharp eye to track them down. There are 3 vehicle exclusive gemstones, phainmaline, baradom, and glaucosite. Each node yields 20 ready-to-sell gems, making them well worth the effort. And finally, ore deposits. These are a bit more involved. You'll find them on moons and planets across the verse, in asteroid fields like the Aran Halo, or in planetary rings like those around Terminus or Yela. Asteroid deposits usually appear as individual rocks, though clusters of up to 6 can occasionally spawn. Surface clusters tend to be larger, anywhere from 1 to 15 rocks, but most often around 6. Each cluster shares the same base mineral and rock type, which plays a big role in how valuable the deposit really is. There's a pretty wide variety of mineable ores, and most can be found in either pyro or stanton, but there are a handful of ores that are exclusive to pyro. These are styleron, rixite, silicon, tin, and ice. Unfortunately, the game doesn't offer many tools to help you target specific minerals, but the community does. The best current resource is Regolith.rocks, a community-driven database of survey data submitted by miners across the verse. It highlights which locations are more likely to contain high-tier ores and gemstones. You'll also find advanced stats like rock mass ranges, average cluster counts, and how many surveys have been submitted for each location. It's a powerful tool, and I highly recommend using it and contributing your own data to help grow the community. There's even individual and org leaderboards if you're chasing a little bragging rights. Let's take a deep dive into how to use your ship's scanning mode while surveying. Any ship can be used to survey for deposits, although mining ships have an increased detection range and dedicated mining mode that provides additional details like mass, total SCU, and rock difficulty based on your current loadout. Scanning mode is where you'll do the majority of your surveying work. It won't show you mass, SCU, or difficulty like mining mode does, but it gives you control over your ping angle and provides high-level readouts for each signal you come across. And Fair warning, scanning behavior changes frequently between patches, so if your HUD looks different than what you're seeing in this video, you're probably not going crazy. To enter scanning mode, press the V key. You can send out an active ping by pressing Tab. That pulse will highlight nearby objects and signals within range. Depending on how far away the target is, you'll see one of 3 signal types: a dispersed cloud at long range, resolved node markers at mid-range, identified nodes with rock type at close range. These signal types appear at different distances depending on the deposit. For ore clusters, dispersed clouds appear at 15 kilometers, resolved nodes appear at 3 kilometers, and identified rocks appear at 1500 meters. For vehicle gemstone deposits, you see a dispersed cloud at 5 kilometers, the resolved nodes at 1 kilometer, and identified rocks at 500 meters. For FPS gemstones, there's a dispersed cloud at about 500 meters, resolved nodes at 200 meters, and identified deposits at just 100 meters. These values are specific to the mining and expedition types, while other types of vehicles' detection range is only 60% of this distance. While surveying, you'll notice each signal cloud has an RS value. That stands for radar signature. This is the combined RS for all deposits within that cloud. The RS value won't appear if the signal has already been resolved into individual nodes, or if multiple signals are overlapping. In that case, try narrowing your ping angle to isolate one cloud. Once you do, the RS value should show up. Ore rocks each fall within a fixed RS range, between 1660 and 1950 depending on the rock type. Vehicle gemstone nodes have a flat 620 RS, and hand-mineable rocks always show 120 RS each. If you're scanning asteroid fields, you may also find salvage panels. These show up with a 2000 RS value per panel, so if you're seeing exact multiples of 2000 in a signal cloud, you're looking at salvage, not minables. You can narrow your ping angle using the mouse scroll wheel. The default scan angle starts at 360 degrees and can be adjusted to 180, 90, 45, 22.5, 11, and 5 degrees. There's no UI element that tells you the exact angle you're set to, but there is a small visual indicator that shows your relative narrowing. A narrower ping angle doesn't increase your detection range, but it does help resolve signals sooner. It's especially useful for identifying how many nodes are in a cluster, or telling ore clouds apart from gemstone clusters based on deposit spacing. Learning to use this narrowing effectively will save you a lot of time in the long run. Once you've found a deposit, it's time to evaluate whether it's actually worth mining. For gemstones, you just need to confirm the deposit type, but for ores, you'll need to perform a detailed composition scan. That can be done while in scanning mode by holding left click, or by switching into mining mode and aiming your crosshairs at the deposit once you're in range. I recommend using mining mode for the additional details it provides. This scan gives you a few important pieces of information. The specific minerals and percentages inside the rock are visible in both scanning and mining mode, but mining mode also gives you key details like the rock's mass, SCU yield, difficulty rating, resistance, instability, and optimal window size. I recommend using mining mode as often as possible. These values vary widely between different minerals, and understanding them is critical to making smart decisions. What isn't shown in either mode is how much those minerals are actually worth when you go to sell, and that's the real key. This table compares the ore types based on their value, resistance, instability, and density. You want to get familiar with it, and you can download a copy to keep handy while you're still memorizing. The ores are broken down into tiers based on both their sell value and the spawn logic that determines what goes into a deposit. Every ore deposit will include one base mineral with a chance for one or more secondary minerals of higher value. Certain ores are also system specific. If you're mining in Pyro, you'll gain access to exclusive materials not found in Stanton, including styleron, rixite, tin, silicon, and ice. Once you know the rock's SCU and ore composition, it's time to figure out if the payout is worth your time. You can crunch the numbers yourself, multiplying the ore percentages by SCU and the market value, but I recommend using the Regolith.rocks survey tools instead. You can enter the mass, instability, resistance, and ore breakdown, and it'll tell you the total rock value based on the current market prices. There's even an automatic screen capture tool that pulls the data straight from your HUD so you can skip all the typing. Ultimately, the decision is yours. Some miners only go after premium rocks, others take what's quick and easy. What matters most is knowing what your gear can handle, what your time is worth, and which deposits give you the best return on investment. If I find a rock that I can't mine right now, can I save it for later? Unfortunately, Star Citizen doesn't currently offer a better way to bookmark or tag specific rocks. Once you leave the area, you'll have a hard time finding the same deposit again. But there are a few workarounds that can help. With update 4.1.1, you can now quantum travel to any of your own ships as long as it's unoccupied. That means you can leave your mining ship at the rock, backspace to your home location, and return using a secondary ship that you don't mind leaving behind. If you're planning to bring in a friend or two to help break the rock, the most reliable method is to wait at the location and act as a beacon that your assistants can navigate to. In the future, we expect to see shareable bookmarks on the map that can be used to tag specific rocks, points of interest, and maybe even play your own bases. But for now, these workarounds are your best bet. If you want to contribute to the community and improve the tools we all rely on, you could submit your own survey data to Regolith.rocks. Submitting is easy, and it helps grow the data set that miners across the verse use to find better locations and evaluate deposits. After scanning a rock, you can either enter the details manually, like ore percentages, resistance, and mass, or use the built-in screen capture tool that automatically reads from your HUD. The more scans you submit, the more accurate the statistics become, especially in less commonly surveyed areas. Your data helps identify new patterns, track rare spawn locations, and there's also a bit of bragging rights on the line. You can opt into the Regolith Survey Core and submit your own survey data. Each rock you add contributes to your personal and org score on the public leaderboard. If your group wants to make a name for itself in mining, submitting data is a great way to contribute and climb those charts. And if you don't have an org you're representing yet, maybe consider joining the Red Legion and representing us. With the surveying mechanics out of the way, let's cover some practical tips to help you become a top-tier surveyor. First, you should never start scanning right next to a quantum travel location. Instead, travel about 70 to 100 kilometers away before you begin surveying and keep heading away. This helps avoid other players and ensures you'll have a cleaner slate to scan through. Tip number 2 is that you can survey in navigation mode for higher top speed, allowing you to cover more terrain. Some locations have thick atmosphere that limits your ship's top speed, so there are some practical limitations, but for asteroid fields or locations with low atmospheric pressure, this will help you cover more ground and survey just a little bit faster. Tip number 3, use a 90-degree ping angle while surveying. It gives you good forward coverage without creating so much overlap that you'll have to double back on rocks that you only pick up to the side or behind your vehicle. Maintaining forward momentum helps you cover more ground and get through more signals, and the time spent reorienting your vehicle to investigate signals is just not worth it. Tip number 4, if you're surveying surface side, use the orbital markers to position yourself between locations. Quantum travel between two orbital markers, but cut the power using the U key mid-flight to drop out between the OM markers and then descend to the surface from there. This gives you a more random starting location and is useful if there aren't any surface markers to route to as a starting location. Tip number 5 involves targeting daylight or nighttime scanning. OM1 sits above the north pole of planets and moons. Looking downwards toward the planet from OM1, the early morning side is to your right. Starting your run there helps keep your survey path in daylight, making it easier to visually confirm deposits. The reverse is true if you're starting from OM2, and you can also use this method to target nighttime locations for scanning if that's your preference. Tip number 6, if you're specifically looking for surface deposits and want to filter out gemstone signals, fly above 5 kilometers in altitude. This keeps your scan range focused on ore deposits only, since the gemstone detection distance is limited to under 5 kilometers. This also has the added benefit of letting you fly a little bit faster through thicker atmospheres, with the added altitude cutting down on the atmospheric pressure. Tip number 7. In asteroid fields, it's really easy to get disoriented and accidentally double back on signals that you've already decided to pass up. Keep yourself oriented by either routing for quantum travel, which will pop up a marker on your HUD, or fly with your back to the star so you're seeing the brightest face of the rocks ahead of you. Tip number 8. Surface deposits typically have more nodes per cluster, meaning less time spent searching and more time evaluating. Asteroid clusters have fewer nodes, sometimes only 1 or 2, so while you're less likely to be bothered while mining in deep space, you'll also have fewer opportunities for good rocks in each cluster. And finally, tip number 9. If you're hunting specifically Quantanium for the current Wicklow Emporium missions, there's no one hotspot that Quantanium will be more common in. It's got a low percentage chance to spawn just about anywhere, so you'll want to target locations that have lower density minerals like aluminum, quartz, corundum, and titanium to make your mining experience a little easier. You'll also probably want to stick to Stanton because Quantanium will not spawn in rocks with tin, ice, or silicon-based minerals, and those 3 materials are exclusive to Pyro. In addition, unless you're mining on Bloom or Terminus, you'll have a lot longer transit time to get to the Pyro refineries. And one last note. If you find a rock that doesn't return a detailed scan or lacks the blue overlay entirely, you may have encountered an unscannable deposit. This is a long-standing bug tied to server performance that can affect entire moons or regions. You can try and wait it out and see if there's just a delay in the rock's loading data, or you can move to a new planet or moon and attempt a survey there instead. Surveying is already a powerful skill, but there are some upcoming changes on the horizon that could reshape how we approach it. First, there's the shift towards quality-based resources. Instead of every rock containing a variety of minerals in varying concentrations, future deposits will use a quality metric to establish a mineral's purity. That quality metric feeds forward into crafting and can affect the deposit's value, and it's also going to change how we approach detailed composition scans. Second, we're expecting biome-specific deposits tied to new planetary generation tech. This means that certain minerals might only appear in specific regions, like icy cliffs, desert basins, or volcanic fields, adding a whole new layer of strategy to choosing where to survey. We also know that new asteroid clusters are being added to the existing systems, and that future star systems will bring entirely new minerals and spawn patterns. Pyro's already a glimpse of that, with exclusive ores and unique mixes of materials to account for them. The deeper into the verse we go, the more likely it is that scanning and surveying will also evolve. So, while the fundamentals we've covered in this video are solid today, stay sharp, because what makes a good rock might look very different just a few patches from now. I'll be providing update videos as part of this tutorial series that cover what changes are coming within each patch, so make sure to save the link to the playlist and watch for those updates as they happen. And there you have it, a full breakdown of the surveying process in Star Citizen. From picking your location, to scanning and evaluating rocks, to contributing your own data, surveying is one of the most rewarding skills you can develop as a miner. The more efficient you are, the more valuable deposits you'll find, and the less time you'll spend chasing down garbage. If this guide helped you out, drop a like and leave a comment with your favorite surveying tips or techniques. I'd love to hear what's working for you. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode in the series, where we'll be covering the process of gemstone mining. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you Sunday.
Mining in the verse, it's our way of life. Mining in the verse, it's a rough but honest way.